We already discovered the precession of the equinoxes. The precession of the equinoxes, and you can look this up, answers.com. Answers.com is a really good resource. One of the things I'm going to do here, I don't hog information. I share information, I'm going to share resources with you also. What happens is, the Earth sits on its axis at a 23.5-degree angle and rotates. It completes one rotation every 24 hours. This is your 24-hour day. Okay? The Earth is constantly moving, even though we don't feel like it's, even though we don't feel it moving. Not only does the Earth rotate, but the Earth goes in a celestial path around the sun counterclockwise. Okay? It takes 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 45.51 seconds for one complete celestial revolution around the sun, for it to go around the sun. That's your solar year, or your annual year. Okay? That's your calendar year, based upon the Gregorian calendar. What happens is, as the Earth is going around the sun and the moon have a gravitational effect on the Earth, and it causes what's called a wobble effect. Okay, you can look this up in astronomy books. You can go online. You can Google it. It causes a wobble effect. If you think back to when you were a kid and you were playing with the spinning top, it spins around, and as the revolutions per second slow down, it starts to wobble, but it's still spinning around. Okay, it's still spinning. The Earth does the same thing. Okay. For that wobble, for one complete wobble to take place, it takes about 25,920 years for that to take place. They just rounded to 26,000. Okay, that's called the precession of the equinoxes. And the orientation of the Earth to the sun and the constellations changes over that 26,000 years. Now, for you to realize that that's not a fluke, you have to observe it at least twice. Okay, we had already discovered the precession of the equinoxes. So you're talking about 52,000 years. Now, when you divide the 26,000 by 12, it gives you something like 2,160, something like that. That's what's known as an age, AGE. You've heard this song by the Fifth Dimension. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. That's what an age is. Okay, this is all dealing with astronomy. Now, to discover the precession of the equinoxes, you need a few things. Number one, you need something to write on. Number two, you need something to write with. Number three, you need a language to write in. And number four, you need some type of observational equipment to observe what's going on, because you can't just look at all this with your naked eye. Okay? So we had already discovered this. All right? You can't, and to understand that and to build a pyramid, you need to understand astronomy, and you need to understand calculus, which is what Dr. David Imhotep pointed out to me as well. We had already discovered all these things. Okay, so we are much older. The pyramids are much older than what they're telling us. The reason why they try to cut off the history of African people, cut off the history of the pyramids, things like that, there's a few reasons. Number one, because Europeans are not that old. Number one. Number two is because Bishop James Ussher in the early 1700s dated creation on October 23rd, 4004 BC. So this is, according to the church, this is when they said creation started. Now, notice I didn't say this is when they said Adam was created. He was created sometime after that. But they say creation starts October 23rd, 4004 BC. So all this stuff that occurs before that, they got to find some way to rationalize this. So they truncate our history. All right, this is what's going on. So this is why we have to do the primary research, and we have to go beyond that. We have to understand what's literature and what's actually world history. Okay. All right. So yeah. So he did. So also now he said the pyramid, and I think I have my notes on the show somewhere, so I'll come across those. He said that the pyramid is the pyramid at Giza, which is the pyramid of Khufu. That is built in 73,000 BC. The step pyramid at Saqqara, which Imhotep was the architect of, that's from the 3rd dynasty. That's even older than the pyramid at Giza. Okay, that's thousands of years older than that. Now, that all makes sense because you have to understand. The article you had an article there, that's fine. The article that I just shared with you shows that we were sailing 130,000 years ago. Okay, Crete is above Africa. It's above Egypt. It's above North Africa. Okay, Civilization starts in southern Africa, in the area, east southern Africa, in the area around Uganda, Tanzania. They go up the Nile River from the south to the north. The Nile River flows from the south to the north. So you got to go up past Ethiopia, Sudan, which was then Nubia, up past ancient Kemet or Tamari, which today is Egypt. You got to go up past all that to get to Crete. Okay? So it makes sense that we were already inhabiting those areas. All right, so this is why we got to... Now, did anybody find out about that? That article was from 2 years ago. Did anybody find out about that article before today? Okay. All right. Write down that source also. New York Times has some good information as well. Now, quickly, also, front page Matt. Now, let me show you something. What's going on now? Did anybody here right now in Egypt? This came out, today's the 14th. This came out 4 days ago. Right now in Egypt, there is a call from Muslim clerics to destroy the pyramids of Giza. Anybody hear about that? Got the article right here. Okay, you see it on my Facebook page?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I got the article right here. This is from July 10th, and I talked to Renoko Rashidi about this also. He's following this as well. This is from July 10th, frontpagemag.com. Sister Nubia first posted this. That's how I first found out about it. Sister Nubia is an archaeologist. She's from Detroit. She may be here today, and she travels to the Sudan to do first primary research. Okay, now, the name of this article, Calls to Destroy Egypt's Great Pyramids Begin. It blew me away. But when you study the history of Muslims invading Africa, you see this isn't the first time they destroyed African culture, African history. No offense to anybody who's a Muslim. I'm dealing with history, period. Okay, and just a couple weeks ago in Mali, you had Muslims that destroyed some of the holy shrines to the ancestors of African people there also. This is stuff going on right now. Okay, so not only do Europeans know our history, but other people know our history also. They're trying to erase it. They're trying to destroy it. That's why in the mid-1800s, I'm going to get into this, I'm going to show you why these negative images were created of us. All right, now, I'm just going to share a little bit of this. I'm going to pass this article around to you. According to several reports in the Arabic media, prominent Muslim clerics have begun to call for the demolition of Egypt's Great Pyramids. Now, you have three great pyramids. You have the Pyramid of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. Okay, if you look at a picture and you see the Sphinx and you see a pyramid directly behind the Sphinx, okay, that's the Pyramid of Khafre. All right. You also have 7 other pyramids, which are those of the queens. Those are smaller pyramids. All right. Okay. Now, they've begun to call for the demolition of Egypt's Great Pyramids, or in the words of Saudi Sheikh Ali bin Saeed al-Rabi, those, quote, symbols of paganism, end quote, which Egypt's Salafi party has long planned to cover with wax. Most recently, Bahrain's Sheikh of Sunni Sheikhs and President of National Unity, Abd al-Latif al-Mahmoud, called on Egypt's new president, Mohamed Morsi, to, quote, destroy the pyramids and accomplish what the Sahabi Amir bin al-As could not, end quote. This is a reference to the Muslim prophet Muhammad's companion, Amir bin al-As, and his Arabian tribesmen who invaded and conquered Egypt circa 641 AD. Under al-As and subsequent Muslim rule, many Egyptian antiquities were destroyed as relics of infidelity. See, this goes back thousands of years, well, hundreds of years, thousands of years, okay? While most Western academics argue otherwise, according to early Muslim writers, the Great Library of Alexandria itself, deemed a repository of pagan knowledge contradicting the Quran, was destroyed under bin al-As' reign and in compliance with the Caliph Omar's command. Okay, so check. So what they're doing is they're continuing what Arabs have done in Africa since they've been there. Destroy African history, African culture, African ways of life. All right. So now they have the technology. See, before they didn't have the technology to actually destroy it. It talks about how the Mamelukes shot off the nose of the Sphinx. Historically, it was attributed to Napoleon, but it's actually the Mamelukes who did that. Now they actually have the technology to actually destroy the Great Pyramids. See, what we have to understand is even though today they call themselves Egyptians, these are invaders. So this is not their culture. This is not their history. They don't care about it. Okay, so this is what we have to understand. All right, I'm gonna pass this around. Check that out. That's from frontpage.com. That's just 4 days ago, July 10th. Okay, but I don't think you saw it on CNN, MSNBC, Channel 7, Channel 4, things like that. Reverend Al Sharpton didn't tell you about it, anything like that. You know, Jesse Jackson didn't say. Jesse Jackson didn't say, you know, we got to say the pyramids. Look what they done did, nothing like that. Okay, so this is why we have to go outside the circumference of their awareness and go to sources that they don't tell us about. All right, now, we have to understand that power, as Dr. Wade Nobles tells us, power is the ability to define and shape reality and have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own. Okay? Power coming from the Latin word potere, meaning to be able. Power is the ability to define and shape reality and have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own. To understand, before I get to these images, to really understand these images, we have to understand what racism is and have a working knowledge of racism. On my show, on my Facebook page, I put together a little brief essay that is called A Brief History of Racism Defined. The reason why I did that is because oftentimes I would hear debates on the radio, because I listen to Reverend Al Sharpton's show. He does have some good information on there. A lot of other stuff, you know, I can leave behind. But he does have some good information. And I watch his TV show also, Politics Nation as well. And I've never seen anybody kick a Republican's ass like Reverend Al Sharpton. Seriously, he's like a pit bull on them behind. You know, personally, I don't know why they keep coming on the show. Right. Personally, but you know, when it comes to other things, you know, I find him lacking. But I do give him credit on what he does do correctly. But what would happen is, a lot of our people are confused, and most people in America are confused about what racism is from a historical perspective. And I would see different debates, like Reverend Al Sharpton, I would see him on CNN, I would see Jesse Jackson, people like this, and they would talk about racism, but they would never define racism from a historical perspective, okay? And oftentimes what they would talk about as racism is actually bigotry, prejudice, discrimination, things of that nature. So, I saw a Facebook post on one of my friends' Facebook threads, and it was somebody that was saying something was racist, and it clearly wasn't. They were clearly confused. So I asked them, I said, please define for me what racism is from a historical perspective. They couldn't do it. Now, if I'd have known this was a European I was talking to, I would have just let well enough alone, because I don't debate Europeans. I don't have time for that. But I put together this information, and he just couldn't refute. So, racism from a historical perspective evolved over the 16th to 18th centuries. It was fueled by Columbus and other Europeans like Henry the Navigator exploring the so-called New World in Africa, extracting the wealth, human capital, and technology, and taking it back to various European countries to rebuild them because they were coming out of the Dark Ages. Also, you have the Portuguese being involved in the slave trade going back to about 1442 in the west coast of Africa also. Okay. Europe was land poor, people poor, and resource poor. They had lost somewhere between 25 to 75 million people in the 14th century due to the bubonic plague from 1347 to 1400. Okay. Some sources I've seen say they lost as many as 75 million. Some sources I see say they lost about 25 million, something like that. Okay. It became a race between various European countries to see who could extract the most wealth, rebuild their countries the fastest, and colonize the various countries and islands they were conquering. For example, between 1501 and 1700 AD, Spain took 4 million Africans out of Africa and enslaved them, exported them to Latin America to extract tons of gold and silver, which was then sent back to Spain and used to rebuild Spain and finance its military. Okay, now it's important for us to understand, slaves were not taken out of Africa. Africans were taken out of Africa and made slaves. Okay, because being a slave is a conditioning process also. All right. Once Europeans gained control of the wealth, Charles Darwin started to classify the humans based upon how botanists had stratified plants and began classifying humans based upon features, places of origin, and who control the most wealth and power.